As many as 25,000 National Guard troops are expected on the streets of Washington, D.C. to ensure the inauguration of incoming U.S. President Joe Biden passes without problems. The city is braced for a potential extremist attack like the violence seen on January the 6th when pro-Trump rioters broke into the Capitol building. FBI intelligence suggests that more armed protests are being planned. The mayor of Washington, D.C. has ordered a state of emergency and says that the city is undergoing an unprecedented level of preparation. Nick Harper has more for us from Washington.
A city under lockdown. Security fences have gone up. Thousands of armed National Guards have come out. These are some of the most extreme restrictions ever seen in the U.S. Capitol. Following the storming of Congress, the city has ramped up security preparations, adding to what was already planned for Joe Biden's inauguration.
They want to make sure that the world sees that what took place a week and a half ago will never happen again in this country, because that was a total disgrace.
Larry Cosme was a special agent with Homeland Security investigations at the last inauguration.
I believe that all the security measures that are in place, based on the intelligence that's received, that it will be a secure inauguration. And you're still going to get protesters, and don't get me wrong, but they're going to be outside the perimeter.
A 7-foot-high perimeter fence surrounds the Capitol building where Mr. Biden will be sworn in as president. Many of the roads in downtown D.C. have also been blocked with barriers or National Guard trucks. And this year, the National Mall, where tens of thousands of people usually gather to watch the event, will be completely closed to the public. The state of emergency will remain in place in the U.S. Capitol until the day after the inauguration. What's not clear is how much longer the security measures, like the fences and National Guard, will stay on into Joe Biden's presidency. DC's Mayor Muriel Bowser has warned that with the increased threat from violent extremists, she does not see the situation quickly returning to normal.
We all have to think about a new posture. We certainly have to think about a new posture in the city. So while we are focused on January the 20th, we're also focused on January the 21st and every day thereafter in the nation's capital.
Officials had already asked people to think twice about attending the inauguration to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Now, with increased fears of another attack, they say it's imperative people stay away and watch from home what they hope will be a peaceful transfer of power. Nick Harper, SABC News, Washington.
As many as 25,000 National Guard troops are expected on the streets of Washington, D.C. to ensure a safe inauguration for incoming U.S. President Joe Biden, that it passes without problems. Derek Plummer is our man who's been watching the situation develop, and he joins us via Skype. Derek, thanks very much indeed for joining us. 25,000 National Guardsmen. When we compare to previous inaugurations, this is really an escalation, isn't it?
Well, listen, first, it's great to be with you, Peter. Thank you for having me. A couple things. One is anytime there's a inauguration of a president or a national security event, like an inauguration, like something like that, there's always going to be considerable security protocols taken. Having attended an inauguration in the past, security is always going to be heavily significant, but clearly, based upon what we saw on January 6th, there is considerable presence of security officials, including the National Guard, Capitol Hill Police, local DC police, as well as surrounding jurisdictions.
I think I read somewhere that Obama won. There were only 1,000 National Guardsmen deployed, 25,000 this time. Really does tell the story of the times that you're living in America.
It is really interesting, right? So when we elected our first Black president here, everyone was extremely concerned about security, not just when he was inaugurated, but his entire administration. To see the level of security around President-elect Biden, Vice President-elect, Kamala Harris, is for sure significant escalation of security. But listen, what we saw on January 6th, we saw President Donald Trump's supporters, incited by him, attack part of our democracy, and unlike anything that we've seen in modern history, and especially not anything that we've seen from within, if you will. So, it's extraordinary, but I think it also does speak to what we have seen over the last few weeks, why they're taking it so seriously.
Talking about within, the FBI vetting members of the service, I suppose there's a normal vetting, just to get the uniform, but now an extra layer because there seems to be some concerns that some servicemen may not be as loyal to the new president as they should be.
Yeah, I've heard that same reporting. What I would say is that anyone who's going to be around the president or the vice president gets considerable amount of vetting. I've worked in administration, security clearances, et cetera. And listen, the reality that what we saw on January 6th, that there were some nervous that were among the seditionists and traitors who were trying to overtake our democracy. Listen, I think they are not taking with inauguration, with the president-elect's life, or the vice-president-elect's life. And also you have to realize you're going to have essentially all three branches of our government in one place at one time. We will have essentially all members of Congress right there. We'll have the president, vice president there. We will have the Supreme Court there. And so literally in one place at a time, which is very rare, you will have the entire leadership of the U.S. government all in one place. That will happen on occasion at the union addresses, but there's still always someone designated survivor who's separate apart. So, listen, we're going to have the entire leadership of the U.S. government in one place, and they're not taking any precautions.
And
they're not taking any.
Yeah. So, for the world looking in from outside, we are, I suppose, baffled in a way that the biggest threat to this president comes from fellow Americans.
Listen, I would argue that the greatest threat to the United States has always been from within. Right? So when you look at the 1940s and when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, right? We weren't attacked from within, we were attacked from a foreign adversary. When you look at 9/11, we weren't attacked by American citizens, we were attacked by a foreign adversary. And essentially throughout our history, that is what we have seen. And so look, this is an extraordinary time for sure. But again, but a couple of things that I am excited about, that I'm heartened by, is the fact that we're going to have competent leadership literally within the next 48 hours of the U.S. government. That we're going to have a sense of normalcy. Donald Trump is going to be relegated to the history books, God willing.
So we see this huge perimeter fence around this Capitol Hill and where the inauguration is going to be taking place. And the Washington, D.C. mayor saying that, there's a new normal. Will that be what we see if we visit Washington in the future, that there'll be more police presence, perhaps fences higher than before, so that when we try and take that picture in front of the White House, it's going to look a little different?
I don't know. My hope is, and my sense is that while there will be additional security precautions taken, that fundamentally our democracy functions when the people are able to engage elected officials in a civil, nonviolent way. So one of the reasons why I think we're also shocked by what we saw on January 6th at the Capitol, that the Capitol is the people's house. And even when they've had incidents in the past, a lone deranged gunman or something like that, they still take extreme pains to make sure that the Capitol in and of itself was still very much so open to the public, et cetera. And so I imagine that there's going to be a number of investigations. There's a number of steps taken to protect our elected officials. We've seen this happen. So after the Oklahoma City bombing in the 90s, they closed off Pennsylvania Avenue right in front of the White House, but it still made accessible, if you will. They create the visitor center at the Capitol to still ensure that there was a safe and orderly way for people to enter into the Capitol. So, I hope that it won't drastically different, but I imagine that because of what we saw in terms of inciting of insurrection here on soil at the heart of our democracy, that they will take certain steps.
Donald Trump has, about 48 hours still as president, and he still has quite a lot of things that he wants to do, including a send-off party. And this will be a first, won't it?
It's interesting. Every time a president leaves Washington, there's always something that happens at Andrews Air Force Base, whether it is staffers that send him off as he essentially takes his last trip on Air Force One as the president of the United States. And only the president of the United States is allowed to ride on Air Force One because that is the designation of that aircraft when the president is on board. And so, listen, Donald Trump is honestly a pathetic, pitiful individual who has shown what leadership does not look like. He has shown what humility does not look like. And, at the end of the day, he's going to have to deal with the fact that people are not going to care about his every whim. He's already been deplatformed by Twitter, Facebook, and a number of outlets. He's no longer going to have the bully pulpit of the presidency. And look, I think Americans are ready to move on. The vast majority of Americans are ready to move on. And I think it's what we're going to see in less than 48 hours. We're going to go to the Biden administration. There's going to be a sense of normalcy, a sense of decency, a sense of morality back in the White House. And Donald Trump will be relegated to the history books as, for sure, a failed president, as one of the worst presidents, if not the worst president we've had, and the first and only president to be impeached twice whilst in the office.
And there's still speculation about pardons that may be issued at the last minute. Any indication of who's going to be on that list? Will the name Donald Trump be on the list?
I don't think we'll see Donald Trump on the list. I'm pretty sure he's thought about it because I'm pretty sure he's concerned about the legal jeopardy that he faces once he leaves the White House in less than 48 hours. Some of the names and the individuals that we're hearing about are white-collar criminals, some criminal justice reform folks, some donors to the president, and the number right now is around 100 people or so that they're expecting to be pardoned. But listen, I got to be honest. The president has pardoned war criminals. He's pardoned those who have lied to our FBI, undermined democracy, who have aided and abetted the enemy. And so, honestly, I'm not surprised by anything that he does. And again, I think most of us are ready for him to move on. He still has the power of pardon and clemency as president of the United States for federal crimes. And people have been paying a lot of money to folks around him to lobby the president to pardon them. And so I'm not surprised by what we may see in the next 24 hours or so.
So Donald Trump very quickly becoming a past story. The future is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I believe that on day one, we're going to see a number of executive orders being written by the president.
Yes, I mean, we've already seen indications related to executive orders to rescind the Muslim ban, if you will, that was enacted in the early days of the Trump administration. We're already hearing that President Biden will re-enter the Paris Climate Accord agreement, as well as, execute some executive orders related to COVID relief, student loan forgiveness, to extension, eviction moratorium, et cetera. So I expected President Biden will hit the ground running. He has a extremely talented, experienced team around him. And we're going to be seeing, I think, a lot of action in the next 100 days, including tackling the COVID-19 pandemic in a way that we have not seen over the course of the last 9-10 months or so.
All right. It's Martin Luther King Day today. What would he be saying today, watching the America that's played out so many years later?
One of my favorite Dr. King quotes is, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice," or excuse me, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And so to me, what that has always meant was that this was not an overnight experiment. The experiment of the United States and all the things that we've had to tackle, civil rights to women's rights to human rights to socioeconomic conditions, these are very difficult and issues that we've had to tackle since essentially our founding. And so what we've seen is that over the last 4 years, and arguably before that these issues have continued to manifest themselves, and the challenges that we have to confront and deal with aren't going to go away easily. But again, if we think about that more universe, and if it does bend towards justice, as Dr. King said, then I think at the end of the day, the life that my children will live will be better than the one that I did. I can arguably say that my life has been better than my ancestors. And so that's what I think about at this moment in time. And look, the work is difficult. If it wasn't, not be worth it, if I'm to be honest with you. And so I think over the course of the next 4+ years, we're going to see considerable challenges facing the United States. But again, I think we will be able to overcome.
Derek Plummer, always great talking to you. Thanks so much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Have a good one.